Reba McEntire arrived on the Today Show expecting a comfortable conversation about her latest album, her coaching role on The Voice, and the stories she loves sharing about her long career in country music. She walked onto the set with her warm smile and calm confidence, completely unaware that the interview was about to spiral into a chaotic exchange she never asked for. From the moment the cameras rolled, the tension quietly settled in the space between Reba and the host, who seemed determined to push the conversation far beyond the boundaries Reba had agreed to. The first few questions were harmless, but the tone shifted quickly as the host pressed her on personal issues that had nothing to do with the purpose of her visit. Reba tried to keep the atmosphere light, giving polite answers and redirecting the conversation toward her music, but the host repeatedly interrupted her, insisting on diving into topics Reba had made clear she didn't wish to discuss on national television. The audience could feel the uneasiness as Reba's smile thinned just a little, her posture stiffening while she attempted to remain composed. She had handled countless interviews throughout her decades-long career, but this one was different. This one felt less like a conversation and more like an interrogation disguised as morning show curiosity. When the host brought up a long-settled family dispute that Reba had moved past years ago, her expression faltered for the first time. She paused, choosing her words carefully, explaining that she preferred to focus on her present work and her fans rather than revisit painful chapters of her life. Instead of respecting her boundary, the host chuckled and made a comment suggesting that Reba was avoiding the truth, provoking a visible reaction from both Reba and the studio audience. The air tightened, and for a moment even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Reba responded as gracefully as she could, reiterating that she wasn't there to rehash personal wounds, but the host pushed further, implying that her fans deserved full honesty. That was the moment Reba's patience began to crack. She lifted her chin slightly, her voice steady but unmistakably firmer as she reminded the host that she had built her career on transparency and integrity, and she didn't need a morning show to validate that. The audience applauded her for standing her ground, but the host, instead of stepping back, doubled down. Then came the question that crossed the final line. The host hinted that Reba's recent professional decisions were connected to rumors that had circulated online, rumors Reba had already publicly dismissed. Reba's eyes narrowed, her expression shifting from strained politeness to unmistakable irritation. She asked the host why they felt the need to amplify baseless gossip rather than celebrate the positive things she brought to the show that day. The host shrugged, brushing off her concerns as if controversy was just another casual talking point. The lack of respect hit Reba like a slap. Reba sat back in her chair, clearly done with the tone of the interview. She told the host that while she had faced criticism her entire career, she had never been treated with such overt disregard on live television. Her voice didn't waver. It grew stronger, carrying the weight of someone who had weathered storms far greater than an unprepared morning show host trying to create drama. The studio fell silent, and the host, perhaps realizing too late that they had pushed too far, attempted to soften the interaction. But Reba didn't let it slide. She explained that boundaries exist for a reason, and that pushing someone beyond them for the sake of entertainment was unprofessional and disrespectful. She added that she'd always been willing to share her struggles, but only when done in a space of mutual respect, not exploitation. Her words echoed across the set, leaving the host visibly uncomfortable and the audience firmly on Reba's side. With a calmness that struck even harder than anger would have, Reba removed her microphone and placed it gently on the table. She gave the audience a gracious nod, thanking them for their warmth, but she made it clear that the interview was over. The host attempted to salvage the moment with a quick apology, but Reba didn't engage. She stood up, smoothed her jacket, and walked off the set with the quiet dignity of someone who refuses to be treated as anything less than the legend she is. The moment shocked everyone in the studio. Crew members exchanged wide-eyed glances, and the audience buzzed with whispers as the cameras hastily cut to an unscheduled commercial break. Clips of Reba's exit began circulating online within minutes, sparking debates and overwhelming support for her decision to walk away from an interview that had crossed so many boundaries. Fans praised her for standing up for herself, calling it one of the most powerful moments they'd ever seen on daytime television. By the time Reba reached her car outside the studio, the incident had already gone viral. Her team reassured her that she had handled the situation with grace, and messages of support from fellow artists, fans, and media personalities flooded her phone. The world saw not just a superstar who refused to tolerate disrespect, but a woman who understood her worth and wasn't afraid to protect it. On stage, off stage, and even in the unforgiving spotlight of live television. Reba McEntire stepped onto the Today Show set with her signature calm confidence, expecting a bright, uplifting conversation centered around her new music and the exciting projects she had been working on. She greeted the hosts warmly, her smile natural and effortless, unaware that beneath the surface, the tone of the interview was about to shift in a direction she had neither anticipated nor agreed to. As the cameras began rolling, the first few questions seemed harmless enough, but Reba could already sense something slightly off. The host's delivery carried an odd sharpness, subtle, but distinct, hinting that this wouldn't be the easygoing morning show chat she had prepared for. Things took a turn when the host abruptly shifted from discussing Reba's music to probing deeply into personal territory. Reba, trying to maintain her composure, responded with gentle humor and attempted to guide the conversation back to her career, but the host interrupted her mid-sentence, insisting on diving further into matters that Reba had long left behind. The audience could feel her discomfort growing, yet Reba handled each moment with grace. She tried laughing it off, hoping that the tension would dissolve, but every time she offered an answer, the host seemed intent on twisting it into something sensational. When the host brought up an old family conflict Reba had spoken about years earlier and had no intention of revisiting, her smile dropped ever so slightly. She explained calmly that she preferred to focus on the work she was doing now, not on painful chapters that had already been closed, but the host pushed further, implying that Reba's reluctance to discuss it meant there was more to the story. The disrespect was palpable. The audience shifted uncomfortably, realizing that the interview was edging dangerously close to exploitation rather than honest conversation. Reba attempted again to redirect the segment, highlighting her new album and how excited she was to share it with fans. Yet the host cut her off once more, this time with a smirk, suggesting that fans were more interested in the truth behind rumors than in her music. Reba's eyes narrowed with a mixture of disbelief and frustration. She had weathered countless interviews over the decades, but this one felt different, calculated, almost strategic in its attempt to provoke. Her patience, though vast, was clearly beginning to fray. The tension spiked when the host referenced a recent rumor that Reba had already publicly dismissed. Reba stared back with a firm expression, asking why the show felt the need to breathe life into gossip instead of celebrating the purpose of her visit. Instead of backing down, the host shrugged casually, brushing aside her concern as if stirring controversy were part of the show's charm. The dismissiveness struck Reba harder than any question, making her realize that she was no longer participating in an interview, but rather being used as fuel for unnecessary drama. Reba's voice grew stronger, steadier, and far more serious as she addressed the host directly. She noted that throughout her entire career, she had always been honest and open when the moment called for it, but she refused to let anyone weaponize her past or twist her words for entertainment. The audience erupted into supportive applause, making it clear that they recognized the unfairness she was facing. The host's smile faltered for the first time, revealing that the conversation had escaped their control. Instead of de-escalating, the host attempted to regain dominance by suggesting that Reba was being too sensitive for someone with such a tough, resilient public image. Reba took a slow breath, the kind people take when deciding whether to fight or walk away. She reminded the host that sensitivity and respect were not weaknesses, and that being a strong woman didn't mean tolerating disrespect. Her tone wasn't angry, it was resolute, and that made it even more powerful. The host tried to counter again, but one of the co-hosts gently intervened, sensing that the conversation had gone far enough. Reba, however, had already made up her mind. She calmly removed her microphone, placed it neatly on the table, and thanked the audience for their kindness. Her composure was striking. She didn't raise her voice, didn't lash out. She simply chose dignity over conflict. The studio fell into stunned silence as she stood up. As she walked off the set, murmurs rippled across the studio. Some audience members gasped softly, others clapped.